Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, also best-selling author, and every single day I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have another fascinating guest. On the show, we interview celebrities, entrepreneurs, business CEOs, multimillionaires, athletes, and artists to find out their path to success, how they're able to overcome challenges and adversity, and of course, their keys to success. And today's guest is definitely somebody who can shine some light into that topic and that conversation because she works with a lot of people who faces challenges and adversity all the time throughout their entire lives, and she's been able to help them become more and more successful, and also been able to incorporate those kind of skill sets into different avenues and different corporations and businesses as well to help them succeed. Now, she is a person who's been in the educational space for many years, but also decided to get out of that space and really make more of an impact and become a voice for those who aren't able to speak out for themselves or aren't able to create those opportunities for themselves, and that's what she's very good at doing right now. She's specializing in a special understanding in gifted minds and autistic, ADHD, and dyslexic minds. She loves coaching leaders, corporation, business CEOs, and all that kind of stuff into bringing in neurodivergent mindsets and individuals into their corporations and find out how it is able to make that work for them and how is it best beneficial. She loves sharing impactful strategies and also information to leverage the unique strengths and support unique needs of neurodivergent leaders. So please welcome award winner, TEDx speaker, coach, educational leader, neurodiversity specialist, Ms. MEHGAN Bonde.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. It's always awesome to speak with people who is so good at what they do, and also to find out their path as to how they got to where they are today. Now, you're in a very unique area when it deals with mindsets and how people think and how their brain waves connect certain things, and may seem odd to some people, but actually it's very unique and it could be very beneficial. And you spend lots of time studying that. You spend lots of time working with people like that. But how did you get to where you are today?
Well, I actually started my entrepreneurial journey as a 9-year-old, and I started a business in my basement, teaching the kids in the neighborhood and providing childcare through these camp days. And my best friend across the street co-taught with me, and we'd market and go door to door and tell parents that we were doing a 4-hour camp the next Saturday, and we would have art and snack and outside and games and books and all that stuff. So I've always loved to educate others and just be a leader and a problem solver and create a vision and go towards it. As a speech language pathologist in the schools, I started to get to know kids who thought differently, and I realized that they had so many strengths that were really untapped just because the environment and the system wasn't really designed to be inclusive for their unique minds. And so getting to know them and really coaching and being a leader to guide that change management and strategic planning around making those adjustments within classrooms, schools, and even at the district level, I really learned how we can adjust to help these kids thrive that really offer creative, outside the box thinking and really unique strengths. And then I got my principal license and did a lot more school and district leadership around climate and culture, inclusion, social emotional learning, and even became a gifted and talented coach. And I really saw the connections between changing our environments to be inclusive. And at that same time, my kids got identified gifted at their school. And I started to learn about the social emotional components of giftedness that people often think it's just about, an advanced learning program. They need to be challenged in whatever area they're gifted in, whether it's math or art or something else. But it really is a different way of thinking and seeing the world. And so I went and got identified gifted as well. And so as someone who identifies as neurodivergent, I've been working in this field so long and didn't realize that I was also somebody who thinks differently. I'm now so passionate about bringing that message to organizations because I did realize toward the end of my career that my needs were not met in my workplace. And that was the ultimate catalyst to going off on my own to become an entrepreneur.
Mhm. Awesome. Thinking back to those days when you're going door to door, isn't it funny how at that age you could go door to door and people go, oh, okay, yeah, we'll come in. And then now you go door to door, it's like, yeah, we're not interested.
Yeah, it's a little bit more rejection as an adult. So I had
Now,
a really specific target audience there that I had nurtured relationships for a while in the neighborhood.
awesome. When it comes to the neural being called neurodivergent, what's that range? Like, where does one start to become called neurodivergent versus not?
Yeah, so it's not super clear cut or there isn't one exact line. Neurodivergent is an umbrella term, and some people estimate that 20 to 30% of the population would fall under that umbrella of neurodivergent because there's just so many areas. The ones you mentioned of gifted, twice exceptional, dyslexia, ADHD, autism, highly sensitive people, there's sensory integration differences. They're even blind or deaf or hearing and visually impaired, often identify neurodivergent. So there's so many different things that sort of fall under that umbrella in terms of their identity. And some people choose to get identified by a professional. We're getting better at identifying kids in schools and doing universal screenings. But adults may choose to seek out an identification, or they may choose to kind of research and self-identify, and that's okay too.
Right. Now, is it also something that potentially upbringing or cultural background may impact that as well?
Absolutely, because really, when we think about neurotypical, which is sort of the opposite of neurodivergent, neurotypical or neuronormative is very cultural. Like, what do we consider typical? What do we consider common or normal, quote unquote, in our culture? And then to identify as neurodivergent, it's acknowledging like, I have had a different experience than what's considered typical or common. Everything's not necessarily designed to include my brain or meet my unique needs and leverage my unique strengths. And so it can vary, yeah, culturally.
So for, let's say in the Western society, for somebody to be called neurodivergent, is that the same criteria or same diagnosis as it would be in the Eastern Hemisphere?
You know, I'm not sure what the research is on that, but I'm guessing that there is some differences in how people would identify and what professionals might notice or the language they might use to describe someone's brain. But I'm not exactly sure.
Now, you mentioned before how lots of kids have different ways of learning. There's a typical way of learning, which is how we've been taught all these years and how the school systems are set up. How do you what are some of the differences, and why is one favored over the others?
Yeah, so there's a lot of differences. Let me just give you an example when it comes to giftedness, because that's what I feel like I can speak to the most in terms of my own experiences. So there are 5 areas of hypersensitivity or deep intensity, and that comes from Dabrowski's research. And so one of them is emotional sensitivity. There's really deep emotional experiences, and it can be high highs where it's like intense joy and excitement and interest and love for something, a particular topic or a particular way something feels or smells or activity. And then there can be really low lows and really intense disgust at something that the way it looks or smells, or boredom feels like incredibly intense to them, or tiredness and exhaustion, or sadness when they see something, anger and frustration when there's something that seems unfair. And so that really wide range, it's a lot more about the intensity of it. The same thing happens with imagination. And so a lot of times gifted people are misidentified as ADHD because they're so imaginational. They can look like they're off in another world and look really distractible. be really focused on their particular interests. And so when the teacher wants you to think about something else or learn about something that's not in that area or do something a certain way, and you've imagined and envisioned something way outside of the box, it becomes problematic for teachers and school systems who want people to think a certain way, follow the directions, do it this way.
So when it comes to working with people who are neurodivergent, they face lots of challenges of integrating themselves into companies, the workforce, community, and whatnot. So for you, like this is something you work on all the time now. What do you do with this group to help them get more notice, to get more confidence, sort of speaking up and whatnot? And then conversely, what do you do with the like CEOs and companies and businesses when you talk to them? Like, what's the messages that you send to both sides?
So the top thing that's really important for neurodivergent people is self-awareness. Because if you're not aware, just like anything else, if you're not aware of limiting beliefs, or if you're not aware and paying attention to one thing, if you don't understand your brain and you're not aware of your unique strengths and your needs to be able to be successful and really leverage and thrive, then that's going to be really hard to self-advocate, which is one of the most important skills, to be able to communicate those needs and be able to communicate the strengths and just build that self-confidence. A lot of neurodivergent people that I work with have very intense shame and low self-esteem. And sometimes on the outside, it can look like really confident, even arrogant, know-it-all. And deep down when I talk to them, that's a cover for feeling like they weren't included, that they weren't good enough, they have to be perfect and the highest achiever in everything to be able to be valuable and worthy. And so the self-awareness, those communication skills, and just the self-confidence of seeing that things that other people thought were a deficit are actually a strength are the most important things that I work on with neurodivergent people. Mm-hmm. And the fact that a lot of neurodivergent people don't even know that they're neurodivergent or realize it. And so that's just an awareness of itself. Mm-hmm. Now with the leaders, I think that the work and the load, the mental load and the responsibility can't fall 100% on the neurodivergent people. It needs to be shared. Leaders need to take responsibility to meet them halfway and do their fair share of reaching out to learn. First of all, again, the awareness, understanding the concepts and the language, and noticing it in themselves too. And then being able to communicate and ask, what do you need? And maybe here's a menu of options of things that might be helpful, and doing those check-ins and not just assuming, oh, it looks like they're a really high achiever, or it looks like they're checking out, I should probably fire them, and actually get to know what's going on with them to build that culture and climate where they feel empowered to ask for what they need and like it's not going to be a big problem.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to being like when you're working with the leaders of different companies and businesses, what are some of the most common rejections or reasons why they're not open to it?
I mean, I think a lot of it is like, this isn't our focus for right now. We don't have time. It's like, there's always so many different things that are on people's plates and initiatives that they're trying to focus on. And so to be able to choose neurodiversity and climate and culture and see the connection to their success, to their profit, to being able to recruit, attract, and retain and really leverage the strengths so that they're reaching their peak potential. They need to be able to make those connections to create the space and focus for it, because if you're doing everything, you're doing nothing, right?
So what are some of those connections that you are able to paint for them? Like you're able to show them, hey, if you're welcoming this group of mindset and individuals into your company, you're able to do XYZ, or it helps you strategically be more profitable. Like what are those examples or case studies that you can share that makes them go, okay, you have a point?
The first thing that I like to do is talk about the metaphor of neurodiversity is like biodiversity. And what I mean by that is our environment thrives when we have the most diversity in plants and animals, and an ecosystem is flourishing with lots of different variety. When something goes extinct or is out of balance, it's a big problem. The same thing happens with brains and people. If we think of one type of brain as the ideal type and we're just looking for this type, we're missing out on the diversity that can really create healthy conflict, new ideas, creativity, where teams can really grow and learn from each other because they bring really unique different skill sets. One example with autistic people is that many of them are incredible data scientists. They see patterns. They may not love networking events. There's a wide range of autistic people, and some do, some don't, but those can be overwhelming. They may communicate differently in an interview or when they're talking to people. But the amazing strengths when we're in such an environment of data-informed decision-making, of that logical thinking, we need those kinds of brains too. Same with ADHD and dyslexia, oftentimes very outside the box thinkers. It's uncomfortable for leaders because often they don't see hierarchy. They don't really respond to traditional authority. They're like, I got a great idea and I'm going to go with it, and I don't really care what my boss says. And that's important. And we need to balance to be able to meet the variety of needs and work together. But how are we going to do that until we start actually really attracting and paying attention to the different strengths that people have?
Now, you mentioned before about certain individuals being good or not as well presented in interviews and whatnot. So therefore, when it comes to, and the interview process is very, very important. It's usually that second or third step after the resume that gets you to be hired and whatnot. So is putting information about your mind, like I'm neurodivergent, on your resume, something that's good or bad for people who are?
So it's a very personal choice, and it's something that hasn't been psychologically safe for people for a long time. And so I think it really needs to be more of a focus on the company making an effort to say, we're actually looking for people with autistic or dyslexic or ADHD or gifted or twice exceptional or any neurodivergent mind. We are looking for someone who has these particular skills, and we would love for you to apply and know. And we give everybody a little survey before the interview that says, hey, here's a menu of options of how we can adjust the interview process and do it differently. Or if you have any ideas, and think of the message that sends to somebody to attract them. I just work with amazingly brilliant people who are terrified to even apply. They will not put themselves out there unless someone makes an effort to communicate with them that this place is welcoming and inclusive of you.
So from your side of things, I assume you're working with a lot of different companies. You're meeting with lots of thought leaders, lots of business leaders, and to open up that conversation so that you're on that list of potential people to call, so that they know, okay, let's open it up for neurodivergent minds. What do we do? Kind of thing, right?
So yeah, so it can be in the job description. It can be in the different systems that HR uses and the processes. And that's what I'm really passionate about helping companies with, is thinking about how are we integrating a neurodiversity affirming environment and creating policy and systems that really include and celebrate and attract people with uniquely wired brains. And so that's what I can consult and provide workshops on, is really helping those leaders think about how they can make those changes systematically for all of their jobs, because they want to open up that wide net for talent pool in any job and really look at the skills that are needed for the job and not just, are you a good interviewer? Because that tells very little about many of the skills needed for so many jobs.
Wow. Amazing stuff that you do. And I'm very happy that there's somebody like yourself that's out there speaking out for that community and helping them become more successful and get integrated into the community. Now, one of the ways that you're doing that is also getting some stage time. You've been on TedX and you're able to share that message there as well. Share with us that experience. How you went from being very comfortable in the educational space, which is something that most people go, okay, that's my lifelong kind of job and I'm going to be there for the rest of my life, to now entrepreneurship. You're speaking on stages, you're on podcasts, you're doing all this great stuff. How's that transition been like for you?
It was a transformational experience for me. I spent a year preparing for my TEDx talk that happened this October. It still hasn't been released. We had 4 videographers and 20 speakers, so it does take a while to edit. And then even after you submit it, TED does fact checking. But really, the beginning of my TEDx journey was last November when I decided this was something that I wanted. I was going to go big. Like, I've been on quote unquote stages my whole career as an educational leader because I did trainings and professional learning daily, weekly for leaders and teachers, and also spoke at conferences nationally and worked internationally as a speech language pathologist and educational leader and speaker. And I had done all that for free at educational conferences. And I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. TEDx is going to be my last free one. And I deserve to be paid for all of the hard work that I've done. And really honing my message, because so TEDx talks can be up to 18 minutes. But when I was invited to the stage, they shared that the organizer shared that they were going to ask for talks to be 5 to 9 minutes, hoping for around 7 minutes. And the theme was to the point. And so I'm like, okay, like I talk a lot. I'm really verbose. I have a lot to share. How am I going to get it down to 7 minutes? And so that was super transformative to think about what's most important. What do I want to share? And a lot of fears came up for me through the process as I was writing it, because the specific topic that I talk about is highly controversial in my area of study and expertise. And I know when it gets released, people are going to be unhappy, some people. And there will be also a large group of people who are going to be like, finally, somebody's saying it. And so I know I'm not the only one, but it is scary to put yourself out there. And as a recovering people pleaser and perfectionist, to really dig in and look inside and think about, like, what do I believe without thinking about what other people want from me or what other people think. That was a really transformative process for me to go through.
I find that it's very interesting that for somebody who's been on stages for a long time already, big stages, small stages, whatever it is, that you still feel that there's this sense of fearness when you're speaking on TEDx stage. What's the big difference? Why is there such a big fear compared to what you've done all these years already?
I think that part of it is that the other ones weren't recorded. And so it's like, okay, I'll never see these people again. And if I totally screwed up, like, no worries. But like, I grow and change at a rapid rate. Like, I'm constantly learning. This is going to be online on a platform with millions of subscribers. And next year, I could think differently about it. I don't know, because I'm constantly learning and questioning and talking to other people and refining my ideas. And so I have to let go that, it's okay if my ideas change, and this is what I believe right now. So.
Now, you mentioned how the topic is controversial, and in this day and age, there's so many people who's online that has an opinion, whether it's correct, not correct, whether it's one way or another way. There's lots of people who's willing to go, here's my thoughts, this is wrong, this is right, whatever it is, and there's cancel culture and whatnot. How do you see yourself dealing with that potentially coming up?
I've learned to set boundaries and be able to, I'm ready to just say, I'm not going to look at that, or I'm not going to respond, or I'm going to choose not to engage with this person. I most value the opinions of people that I have relationships with who are willing to have a dialogue with me where we can go back and forth and be good listeners and be curious about each other's ideas. And so ultimately, I have to remind myself sometimes that it's okay, and my self-care matters. I can set those boundaries. I can do the things that energize me to help me continue in the important work that I do.
Now, during your journey towards entrepreneurship and doing what you do right now, you said there's a lot of transformational things that happened. What was the biggest aha moment for you?
Really, that when I focus on following my dreams and going after something big, it does have an impact on others positively. I don't have to just give all of the time like I ended up doing in my career as an educator, only worrying about other people's needs and trying to just be the savior for everybody else of what they needed, and that it is okay to do what I enjoy, what energizes me, have alignment and rest. I've become a dancer. I dance on stages for concerts as a backup dancer for a band who the teacher is also in a band that I work with. And just like having fun and enjoying life and having rest and choosing what's exciting to me. The ripple effect has been amazing. I'm still making a difference, and I didn't know that that was possible. I see other people getting inspired in my networks all of the time.
Awesome. Now, throughout this entire interview, there's a lot of stuff that has to do with mind. How you think about things, how you interpret things, how you are able to focus on who you are and what you do, and what you do is good. Now, when it comes to energy and having the right mindset to attack challenges and adversity, what do you do on a daily basis that keeps that energy high, keeps that mindset positive? You mentioned having fun, but you can't, like, can you have fun every single day? How do you do that?
Yeah, it just is about choosing how much time I'm gonna spend having fun and doing things that energize me. And oftentimes I can merge work with fun. They don't have to be these separate silos, like dance is only for fun or work is only for serious things. And I have fun when I'm speaking. I have fun when I'm having conversations on podcasts and when I'm getting to be creative and writing my next or creating my next course or workshop or creatively solving problems. That's fun for me. And so just integrating it and not taking on too much of either, to really think about, like, what is my capacity? Whatever that capacity is for today, that's enough. Tomorrow will be a new day. Some days it's more than others. I'm a mom. I'm doing a lot, and it's okay to have balance.
Mhm. You mentioned how you dance and you take that as a form of setting your mind free, having some fun, but also reaching into that creativity space as well. How important is that mindset of opening up that creativity, the artistic ability of what you can do? And why should people engage in that type of stuff, like art or dance or whatever it is that opens up creativity?
For me, it makes me just come alive, and it absolutely energizes me. I just feel the positive vibrations that I just want to send out into the world. And I love it. Like, it gives me so much just juice to be able to think outside the box and have the energy for the other parts of my life and show up as the leader that I want to be. And I think that everybody can find something that recharges them and one of the things about my brain is that I get into my head and I'm constantly thinking. And to get out of my head and into my body and just not be thinking, my brain needs rest. My brain needs a break to be at its peak performance for when the time comes when it is time to think.
That's nice. I was going to ask, like, if your brain speaks that much, because sometimes my brain goes, "Hey, you have to do this, you have to do that. Hey, that's not good," and I go, "Oh, just shut up. Let me think." You can. So obviously, that's the way you do it, by shutting that side out by dancing and having art to it. Now, throughout your entire journey, I'm sure there's a lot of people that was in your path that helped you out along the way, giving you guidance, support, mentorship. What are some of the most impactful advice that you've gotten from your mentors or your colleagues that's gotten you to where you are today?
So one thing my mom reminds me a lot is you either make the right decision or you make the decision right. And so decisions don't have to be permanent. And when I get into this space where I'm not sure about something, to allow myself to just follow my intuition and go with it. And it's okay to change course if it wasn't the right decision. And then the other person and people that really have impacted me is those that have been teaching and mentoring me to have the balance and to find what really energizes me and helps me shine my light into the world, and that's not selfish, and that I'm making a bigger impact because I'm noticing what I really love to do and what I'm passionate about and going towards that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now, my last formal question to you is, how about TEDx calls again and goes, "Hey, we'll give you the stage and you have an opportunity to speak to the world and share one last message that you want everybody to remember Megan for." What would that message be?
I want to be remembered as somebody who lived into their values and prioritized the important things in life, which is really my relationships.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Good words to live by. Before I let you go, I got 5 quick rapid fire questions. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. You're stranded on a deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence.
Guacamole and chips.
Nice. Hollywood calls and says, "Hey, Megan, we love your story. It's very inspirational. We would like to do a biopic on you. Who would you cast to play you?"
Ooh. Glennon Doyle.
All right. Glennon Doyle shows up at your door and says, "Hey, I got casted to play you. Let's have some fun." And you go, "Don't worry about it. I got the night all planned out." So what does that night look like to you?
A dance party with about 15 people, not too crowded. An awesome DJ and amazing farm to table dinner and a concert.
Very, very nice. You're on a road trip in a car that plays only one song for some reason. What's that one song you don't mind listening to over and over and over?
Unstoppable by Sia.
Nice. And my last question before I get there, give me a number from 1 to 5.
3.
1, 2, 3. So if you had to relate success to pickleball, how is pickleball a metaphor for success?
You have to do the back and forth. You can't play alone.
I see that. So that's how success is like pickleball. Pickleball. Any final words from you that you would like to share?
Celebrate your own neurodiversity, because everybody's brain is super valuable and you don't have to try and mold it into the fake ideal.
Nicely done. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, how do they get your courses? How do they contact you? What's all that great stuff?
So the best way to contact me is to go to growtoptalent.com. I have an exclusive private podcast mini series that I share some of my top tips about really attracting and leveraging the minds of neurodivergent employees.
Awesome. So make sure everybody connect with Megan. Lots of great stuff there, and she's able to help a lot of people. And I'm sure once you connect with her, you'll learn a lot more about neurodivergent. I haven't said that word so many times in my life, so I'm still trying to get a hang of it. But thank you very much for your time. I love learning new things, and I've learned a lot today. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great. She's Megan. My name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.